Hi booktube, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Marilyn, Maya, sometimes called the baby boomer booktuber, and have I got a haul for you. Let me tell you about our Friends of the Library book sale in Hawaii. Every year for the last 75 years, almost as old as me, no, just kidding, they had the book sale in the McKinley High School, and it was really big. For some reason this year they moved it to a store, Pier 19 I think, that had been, or Pier 21, I can't remember the name. It was a furniture store, and it was much smaller, but there was no way that I was going to miss it. And there was a few differences this year, and I'll get to that later, but I'm very glad that Gina Stanier gave me the present of this wonderful book bag, because it came in very handy and is getting very used, but that's what book bags are made for. Okay, so the first day was last week, and I went on the first day, or the second day, which was the weekend, and unfortunately, I got there 15 minutes before they closed, and I had to survey the territory first, and then I went straight first to the mysteries because they were so numerous. And it's a good thing I did, because when I went back, it was picked over a lot. And I got a Ruth Rendel, who was one of my favorite mystery writers throughout my 30s and up to now. And this one I never heard of. It's called Dark Corners. And what it says is that Carl Martin's father basically dies, and he inherits a house in an increasingly rich and trendy London neighborhood. Cash poor, he rents the upstairs room and kitchen to the first person he interviews. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is keeping the bizarre collection of homeopathic cures that his father left in the medicine cabinet, including a stash of controversial diet pills. Mistake number three is selling 50 of those diet pills to a friend who is then found dead. So that sounds interesting, and it's not your typical mystery. It seems that Dermot, who's the Carl's renter, he refuses to pay rent and creepily invades his space. And this was written in 2015, so this is quite before she passed away. And I find it, you hear stories about how people, rent a house in somebody's room, or rent a house or an apartment and refuse to leave and refuse to pay rent, and then it's hard to get rid of them. So this seems like a very timely mystery, and I'm excited to get to it. I have so many books to read. Then I saw almost a brand new Nicci French, Land of the Living, and Nicci French is a husband and wife team, and I'm not going to tell you too much about the mystery, because the minute that I tell you about it, you're going to know what kind it is. It's about Abby, who was kidnapped, and she knows that somehow she's going to stay alive. She does, but then it says that she escapes, but once the nightmare is over, another one starts. I won't get into it. I'm not sure if this is up my alley or not, but I know that this is a very beloved mystery writer on BookTube, so when I saw it in almost perfect condition, I picked it up. The next one is the same. It's Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I have to say that I started this and couldn't get into it. It's much beloved. It's a page-turner, heartbreaker, a tour de force of knotted tension and buried anguish. It says it's gothic. from the little I read of it or heard about it, I thought it might be science fiction or even dystopian, but I haven't really read it. I read Remains of the Day, and I read it with Nikki from Red Dot Reads, and we loved it. But so far, it seemed to be more like a coming-of-age novel for some reason, almost young adult. And it wasn't grabbing my attention. But I'm not giving up on this because it's really very beloved on BookTube. So then, the day before the library sale ends, the day that it ends, they sell everything out for 50 cents. But I went the day before. So now this is the exciting part. Usually they gave you a box. There was boxes all around. They gave you a box and you would fill up the box so you can hold it. But when I asked about this, they said, oh, something happened with the box company and there was a shortage, it didn't come, so we're not giving out boxes. Whatever is in the box, you can buy. So, but I noticed that people who come to the book sale, they come every year, so they know that people would walk around with boxes. So I guess they didn't ask, but I did. And boy, did I get a good book because of that. And I'll explain that later. So then I came back the next day, the end of the week, but not the 50-cent day. Everything was half price. And I picked up this book, which has a movie cover, One True Thing by Anna Quindlen. And I started reading this and also couldn't get into it. And this is the second book of Anna Quindlen that I'm feeling that way. And I love her nonfiction, but I'm still going to try. The movie cover is Meryl Streep, and I recognized Renee Zellweger, though she looked really young here. And I'm just going to say it has to do with mothers and daughters, and there's a twist at the end, and that's all that I know about it. But it has such good reviews. I mean, so I'm going to try. I felt it was a little dated. That's what I felt just reading the first couple of pages. Then I looked, I got out of mysteries, and they have a very small literary fiction pile. It's not very big. But I found Oh Pioneers by Willa, Cather, and I had read this before. But just to remind myself and to tell the viewers, this tells the story of the Bergsons, a family of Swedish-American immigrants in the farm country near the fictional town of Hanover, Nebraska, in the turn of the 20th century. The main character, Alexandra Bergson, inherits the family farmland when her father dies, and she devotes her life to making the farm a viable enterprise at a time when many other immigrant families are giving up and leaving the prairie. The novel is also concerned with two romantic relationships, one between Alexandra and family friend Carl Lindstrom, and another between Alexandra's brother Emil and the married Marie Shibata. So I read this, but I can't remember anything except remembering that I loved it and that it's a classic about the pioneers who really went through a lot going west and making a life for themselves. A lot of them were Swedish immigrants. And I read a few books like this. Okay, so that's my classic. Then I found A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, which is a play. And I think most people know this play because it was made into a movie twice. And the first one, I didn't watch the second movie, but the first movie was starring Sidney Poitier, Ruby Dee, Claudia McNeil, Diana Sands, Roy Glenn, and Lewitt Gossett Jr., among others, and it was wonderful. And in college, I studied African American literature, so I knew that A Raisin in the Sun came from the poem Harlem by Langston Hughes. So just to give you an idea of it's a very short poem. And it starts out, and sometimes the poem is known, What Happens to a Dream Deferred? So Langston Hughes is asking the question, what happens to a dream deferred? And then he answers it in the following way. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Very powerful poem. And this was first produced in 1959. Was awarded the New York Drama Critics Circle Award. And was also radically new representation of Black life. Resolutely authentic, fiercely unsentimental, and unflinching in its vision of what happens to people whose dreams are constantly deferred. In her portrait of an embattled Chicago family, Hansberry anticipates issues that range from generational trauma or clashes to the civil rights and women's movement. She also posed the essential question about identity, justice, and moral responsibility at the heart of these great struggles. The result is an American classic. So I want this in my library, and I want to read this play. So that's A Raisin in the Sun. Then I picked up, almost opposite, I picked up Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. I'm a big lover of D.H. Lawrence's literature. A lot of people aren't, but I read one of his plays that was written in 1912 or even earlier called A Widowing of Mrs. Holroyd, and I became hooked and read some of his books, but I never read Lady Chatterley's Lover. So I had to, since it's kind of, the blurb is in small print, I printed out, kind of knew what it was about. But the story concerns a young married woman, the former Constance Reed, Lady Chatterley, whose upper-class baronet husband, Sir Clifford Chatterley, described as a handsome, well-built man, but he's paralyzed from the waist down because of a Great War injury. His wife has an affair with the gamekeeper, Oliver Millers. The class difference between the couples highlights a major motif of the novel. The central theme is Constance's realization that she cannot live with the mind alone. That realization stems from a heightened sexual experience that Constance felt only with the gamekeeper. So this was banned. I know that. It was banned. And yeah, and this says it's the unexpurgated 1928 edition. So I guess it was condensed for audiences that to make it legal, I guess. And it says it's lyrical and sensual. It's his last novel and one of the major works of fiction of the 20th century. So yes, I like it. It was a very good copy as well. So this is going on my shelf. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. What I call, they're all good, but the part that I was going to tell you about. In the boxes below, I told you that nobody was really looking at them because people go back every year to the, as I said before, to this very big book sale, the Friends of the Library book sale in Hawaii, in Honolulu. So, but since I talk to people, and I said it in my last video that I always talk to strangers, and you know, the people that run the Friends of the Book Library, the Friends of the Library, they're usually retired people that volunteer their time. And so I was just talking to them, and they were telling me different things. So I mentioned, what about the books on the bottom? Do they belong to somebody? And they said, oh, no, you can look through them and take them. So I found some gems right there. And one of the gems was by Lucia Berlin, and it's called Evening in Paradise. And it's published in 2015. It was published A Manual for Cleaning Women. It's short stories, which I usually don't enjoy, but I loved A Manual for Cleaning Women. And that was a posthumous story collection by a relatively unknown writer, and it was acclaimed, widespread acclaim. The stories in Evening in Paradise, carefully selected from the remaining uncompiled Berlin stories, provide the same warmth, nostalgia, and down-on-their-luck characters that made A Manual for Cleaning Women so beloved. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lucia Berlin. She was born in 1936 and died in 2004. She worked brilliantly but sporadically through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And sober after a lifelong battle with alcoholism and writing steadily by the 90s, she took a visiting writer's post at the University of Colorado Boulder in 1994 and soon became an associate professor. In 2001, in failing health, she moved to Southern California to be near her sons, and she died in 2004 in Marina del Rey. I really suggest people, readers who love short stories, to check out Lucia Berlin. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a short story collector, but I loved A Manual for Cleaning Women, and I'm hoping I'm going to like Evening in Paradise. Now for the big one. I got a book, and before I tell you about it, when I went up to pay for it, one of the retirees, the Friends of the Library, told me, oh, I was keeping that on the bottom because I thought I was going to grab it when everything was 50 cents. And I looked at her like, should I give it to her? But she didn't say anything else, and I said, no, this is my prize. And it's called The Ideal Bookshelf, by art by Jane Mount, edited by Thessaly LaForce. And the cover is just gorgeous. It's, like I said, this is all illustrated with the books that all of these different types of people are suggesting to put on your bookshelf. So some of these people are Malcolm Gladwell, Alice Waters, Miranda July, Thomas Keller, Michael Chabon, Ben Schott, James Patterson, Maria Kalman, Jennifer Egan, Stephanie Meyer, and dozens more. And first of all, it's in gorgeous condition. It was when they first were selling it, it was $4. I got it for $2 because it was half price. What I love about it, you know, I love books about books, of course, and I love book suggestions, like book lists. But when you have so many different types of people, and they're not all writers, so a lot of them are writers, but so it says, the assignment sounds straightforward enough. Select a small shelf of books that represent you. The books that have changed your life, that have made you who you are today. Your favorite favorites. You begin by walking over to your bookshelf and skimming the spines on the top shelf. You pull down a handful that you remember loving. You grab a couple that you read over and over. Some you know just by the cover of their dust jackets. One is in tatters, was passed down by your mother. I have one such book, and it's dog-eared and carefully held together by tape and tenderness. The closer you look, the trickier the task turns out to be. And it goes on and on. So there's filmmakers, ballet dancers, chefs, writers, fashion designers. But what's so beautiful about this book is that the illustration, they show a shelf. So everyone who is contributing to this book has their own shelf. And they're not all like 6 books, 7 books. Some of them are bigger shelves than others, like Mary Carr, one of my favorite memoirists. And they're not the books that you would think they would read. It's so exciting. I was so happy to get this book. And I know it's going to be, it's called My Ideal Bookshelf, and I know it's going to be one of my favorites. So I'm so glad that, I mean, for all the standing around, and you know, the last day it was picked through, especially the mysteries, but the fact that I got this, and I'm trying to think if they have how much this was. This had to be like it doesn't have a price on it, but it feels like it should be like $24 or something. Oh, $24.99. So I was right. So this is my prize. I say this is my prize. And because I didn't have, this is where my friend Gina comes in, because I didn't have a box to put all these books in, luckily I had bought Gina's present to me, her book bag with all, she had sent me a lot of books, which thank you so much, Gina. They are definitely books, Agatha Christie's and others that I want to read. But I was able to keep the books in here until I paid for them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to my channel. I love to have you, and comment and ring the notification bell so you'll get a new video just for you. So until we meet again, aloha.